Hey, welcome back. I'm Kristen, and in today's video, I am showing you how to make frozen pizza at home. So to start the pizza dough, I have warm water, should be about 110 degrees, and that will help your yeast to start blooming. If you have the water too hot, it'll kill it and you'll have to start all over. So you really need to check the temperature before you start. And I'm adding honey instead of sugar to the water. The yeast is going to eat the sugar and that will help to get it to bloom, right? And start to do its thing in the water. So I have active dry yeast here, and I'm going to use, I like to go more than the recipe calls for. The recipe calls for two teaspoons, but I go about 2 tablespoons, and I think it just works better that way. I just think the crust just comes out better, like kind of fluffier, and it's just so much better. So that's what I do. I will have the recipe linked for you in the description box if you want to do this yourself. Okay, now starting with the dry ingredients for the flour, I use bread flour. I've made crust with both all-purpose and bread flour, and I think the result is so much better with bread flour. It has more protein in it, and you're going to get kind of a chewier crust that way. So try that too. That's another way to get a really great pizza crust. So I'm just adding whatever seasons I want. I have some garlic parmesan seasoning here. You can add regular salt or you can use garlic salt too. Either way, but you need to have some salt in there for some flavor. And meanwhile, here's the yeast is proofing really nicely. Here it's blooming. It's getting really foamy, which is what you want. That is very important. If it's not foamy, throw it out and you need to get new yeast or something went wrong. But you have to have that foam there. Okay, I'm just putting the mixer bowl onto the stand mixer with the dough hook. And I'm just going to mix the dry ingredients together. So yeah, so a frozen pizza at the store costs probably around, I don't know, depending on the brand, but maybe 10 bucks, 15 bucks or something. Not 15, but you know, it'd be 10, 12 bucks, I'm assuming. I don't buy frozen pizza that often, but if you do this at home, the most expensive thing I'm using here is the bread flour. And I had everything else on hand, so I mean, it's so much cheaper to just do it at home and have your frozen pizza at home. And you can put whatever seasonings or whatever toppings you want on it, and it's just so much better. I can't express to you. Okay, so going back to the dough here, I'm pouring in the yeast here. It's perfectly bloomed and it's ready to go. So I'm adding all of it, and you want all that foam in there. Scrape that measuring cup and get it all in there with the flour and everything else. And here's olive oil, like 2 tablespoons of that is going to really help the dough come together. And you'll just want to let it go until the dough starts pulling away from the sides of the bowl. And as you can see, that's starting to happen here. So I'll just take the dough hook out, add a little bit more oil to the bowl, and throw the dough in. Flip it around in there so that the oil coats all sides of the dough so it does not stick. I like to add a little bit of plastic wrap to the bowl and to just really close in the nice, warm, humid air that's in there. And that'll help it to double in size a lot quicker. So I like to just put it in the back of my stove top there with the hood light on. And that's usually enough heat for it to really start going. And it should be about doubled in size when it's ready to go. So at this point, I'm going to begin to preheat my oven and pizza stone. And I'm doing this to par bake my pizza dough. So I'm going to 500 degrees. Okay, it's going to be pretty darn hot. That's what you want. And while the oven is heating up, I let my dough proof for about 2 hours. You know, you can let it go as long as you want. You can even do it in the fridge too. Whatever you want to do. But anyway, a few hours later, now I'm ready to roll out my pizza crust. So the recipe that I use will get you a double batch. So I end up with about 4 10-inch size pizzas from this one recipe. I like to do extra because it's always nice to have extra pizza, right? Okay, and then I like to use cornmeal and flour. You really don't need flour with the cornmeal. The cornmeal is good enough. But anyway, just do what you like. I'll just portion out my big old ball of dough here into four dough balls and begin to roll them out. So I'll just kind of coat it. And the cornmeal gives it kind of a nice texture too, like a little bit of extra crunch on your crust. I like to use cornmeal personally. You don't have to use it. You could just use flour if you want, but if you're using a pizza stone, you'll want to have that cornmeal because that'll really help it to not stick to that pizza stone, because that can just turn into a mess and an extra headache that you really don't want to deal with. Okay, so I just use cornmeal and just roll that pizza dough out, and then it's going to go into the oven. And another tip here is you don't want to roll your crust out too thin. It needs to have a little bit of stability, so you want to have it kind of in that sweet spot of not too thick and not too thin. And that will help you to be able to move it a lot easier. I found that out through trial and error. So now the pizza dough crust just goes onto the pizza stone, and you can let it go for as little or as long as you want. I like to have a little bit of color on it, as you see here. So I let it go for probably around 10 minutes or so. And then I have my homemade pizza sauce here. I just used regular tomato sauce, tomato paste, a little sugar, and some oregano, Italian seasonings. Whatever you want to use is fine. But I just kind of threw this together really quick before I wanted to make this, and it turned out really awesome. You'll want to make sure and wait till your pizza crust is totally cooled before you do this, by the way. You don't want to put it on a hot crust, okay? Let it completely cool and then continue with whatever you want to put on there. This is mozzarella, of course. And then we have some pepperonis here. Pepperoni is a very big deal in my house, especially for my husband and my son. They just love pepperoni. And I have found that banana peppers go very well with pepperoni, which I'm going to be putting on here. I just dice some up real quick, just like this. And the vinegariness just adds a little extra zip, a little tanginess to your pizza. It just works so well with the pepperoni. I highly recommend you try it. If you like it to be a little bit more spicier, then you could go for pepperoncinis instead. But I prefer banana peppers myself, just the mild ones. I don't need to go crazy with it. You know, it just adds extra flavor. And then I like to put a little extra cheese on top just because I feel like it helps the toppings to stay on better. I don't know. And then I got this cardboard at Michael's, okay? It's a craft store, but they sell cake things, cake supplies, baking supplies, and that's where I got that there. It's a food-grade cardboard, and this is just to help you store it in the freezer a little bit better. So the plastic wrap does not stick very well to it, I gotta admit it, but it all worked out just fine. Oh my gosh, here I am, I'm making another pizza. But anywho, this will just give me a chance to talk about this a little bit better. Yeah, I just really like this doing it at home business. It just works out just so much better, and it's not that hard to do. It takes just a little bit of time, and then you can have some pizza whenever you want it, and you don't have to buy it at the grocery store, you know. Okay, and then I store it in a big 2-gallon bag, write the directions on it, and it goes in the freezer. So then I'm just going to show you how we bake it off. So this is the next day. My son and my husband are going to have this for lunch. So it's going to go into a 400-degree oven. We have pizza screens here. You don't have to use a pizza screen. You could just put it on a sheet, or you could just put it on the rack. But it's going to bake for about 15 or so minutes until it's melted and hot and ready to go. You can put it in there right from frozen if you want. I'll link more instructions on how to do this. But this is awesome. I really recommend you try it. See you in the next one.